Most of week 1 is now in the books, and in the weekly recaps, it is pretty self-explanatory, but we are going to conclude the week. They will be in a playlist and go week to week and go from there. We will start with the Buffalo game on Thursday night and go from there to Sunday and discuss what were the biggest takeaways, both good and bad, for the corresponding week. And we're going to start by discussing the Buffalo Bills and their hunger entering this season. And by hunger, I mean, we always hear how players are seemingly either in the best shape of their lives or the opposite, and an example would be Leonard Fournette back in July when everyone was discussing his weight. Then after the best shape of their lives, it's usually, oh well, this team or this group of guys is different than last year, which usually applies to teams that were in the playoffs looking to get back. And the Buffalo Bills were my preseason Super Bowl pick, and I did expect them to win against the Rams, but not to that extent. I expected the Rams' offensive line to regress a little, and for the Andrew Whitworth loss to retirement to be noticeable, but again, not to this level. The Bills kicked their ass, and Jalen Ramsey got beat time and time again. Matt Stafford did not play good as well, and the Rams had no ground game. They were helplessly outmatched in the trenches, and it showed. Now, are the Rams doomed after one bad game? No, absolutely not, as the 49ers and Cardinals also looked bad, and the Seahawks have not played yet, though they have Geno Smith starting at quarterback, and that will probably go about as well as you would expect. But the Rams at this point in time have a lot of work to do before week 2. And the next game I want to discuss is the Steelers-Bengals game. This was a hell of a week 1 game, and a lot went down, and that's really putting it lightly. Minkah Fitzpatrick had a pick 6, he blocked a kick, and the Steelers escaped the Queen City with a win. What I think one of the biggest takeaways is not that the Steelers are now the team to beat in the North or anything overreactionary like that, as much as it's how much they had to have go right for them just to beat the Bengals, meaning they had to have Joe Burrow throw for 4 interceptions, sack him 7 times, and to their benefit, have a backup long snapper miss a few snaps again just to beat the Bengals. And the reality is, Steelers fans, I don't think this is an exaggeration here, but your team is not going to average 7 sacks per game and 4 interceptions with a defensive touchdown per game. So congratulations on the win, I mean that, but there's a lot of negatives or at minimum things to take from this. And the fear now is TJ Watt tore his pec, which would only make matters worse for them and his season would be over. The speculation on Twitter was TJ coming off of the field with people reading his lips of him saying, "I tore it." So the Steelers won and good for them, but in a lot of ways, at what cost? One of the more comical headlines to me entering this season was how Patrick Mahomes entering this year would not be the same player because of Tyreek Hill being traded to the Miami Dolphins. This was all said about Patrick as if he hasn't been on a historic tear to start his career, as if he hasn't led the Chiefs to 4 straight AFC Championship games and a Super Bowl title back in 2019. Now, I didn't think Patrick would have a 360-yard 5-touchdown effort against the Cardinals, but the thought that this was made by one very good receiver when they have a Hall of Fame quarterback in terms of talent, a Hall of Fame head coach and tight end was to me always laughable. I thought this was going to be a very high-scoring game and was paying attention to how Kansas City's defense played, but they did a phenomenal job of being able to get off the field as they held Arizona to 3 for 12 on 3rd down, and Kyler Murray had less than 200 yards passing. Kansas City plays Thursday night, and for them to start out 2-0 in a span of 5 days would be critical. As for Arizona, I am very, very concerned for them and the outlook for their season because, simply put, I don't trust their defense at all, and I do think it will be a very long year for them defensively. The NFC South provided quite a game between New Orleans and Atlanta, and the biggest thing here to remember when getting excited about your favorite teams and players coming back is a lot of the time it's going to take time to get back to their normal self, and that's fine. The Saints are a lot of people's dark horse team to really compete in the NFC, and it makes sense. They've beat the Bucks 4 times over the past 2 years and were a good team last year when Jameis played. but it's also going to take time to build up to that. And credit to Atlanta for having a great defensive scheme for the first few quarters to stop the Saints, as they were calling several different blitz packages, and there were times I believe Saints fans would even agree here, it was ugly. A win is a win, and I'm not saying for the Saints and their fan base to not celebrate, but to remember it may take a few weeks to really get going before you see Jameis, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas operate like a well-oiled machine. The Philadelphia Eagles offensively are a unit, and Jalen Hurts is going to get a lot of respect after this year. He had over 300 yards offensively, and the Eagles put up 38 points in a win over the Lions. Receiver A.J. Brown had a phenomenal debut for them, and there is a lot to look forward to right now in the city of brotherly love. Defensively is another thing for them at the moment, as you can certainly make the case that Philly was lucky to escape Detroit with a win, as for all of the things they did right, they gave up over 180 yards rushing, and DeAndre Swift nearly had 150 alone on nearly 10 yards per carry. I don't worry about Philly offensively, and I do think their offensive line is one of the best in the league, and it showed as they had over 200 yards rushing. Moving forward though, I would like to see them run the ball even more and basically say to defenses, stop this. They averaged over 5.5 yards per carry and held the ball for 31 minutes of the 60 minutes played. And if they could get this into the 35 area while still averaging over 5 yards per carry, they could very easily become one of the more dominant teams in the NFL, and soon. The Minnesota Vikings beat the Packers in the first game of the Kevin O'Connell era, and what a game Justin Jefferson had. He had 9 catches for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he received some very impressive praise from Aaron Rodgers after the game, who said he was the best player on the field. And with this game, what is important to be aware of is we expected the Vikings offense to play good, and for the most part, they did. Kirk Cousins had over 275 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Dalvin Cook finished with 90 yards rushing on 4.5 yards per carry, but the defense was what I was most concerned with heading into the game. Could they stop the Packers? And the answer is yes. And sure, Christian Watson dropped a pass that would have been a touchdown, but that was one play. We could do the whole, well, what if he catches this and the momentum swing and everything else, but the fact of the matter is he didn't, and they had the rest of the game to make up for one singular play. So great win by the Vikings, who sacked Aaron Rodgers 4 times, and for Kirk Cousins, who outplayed Aaron Rodgers in this game as well. The Vikings-Eagles game next Monday night is going to be insanely fun to watch to see where both teams stand, and I can't wait. And as for the Packers, they play Chicago next week, and while Chicago is 1-0 at the moment, I fully expect the Packers to win their Week 2 game. And from one divisional game, we go to another to discuss the Patriots and Dolphins, and every concern I had with the Patriots entering the season is still a question I have now. So, first things first, credit to the Dolphins, as it was an impressive win. But for the Patriots, the offensive play calling has been a big question we've had all offseason, and with Matt Patricia being the guy and only putting up 7 points means there are still a ton of questions. The Patriots did not run the ball well, and from the end of the draft until now, I've been concerned with the receiving options they gave second-year quarterback Mac Jones. A lot of people, though not everyone to be clear, would say Devontae Parker would be fine, and he's the guy. Well, he finished week 1 with 1 catch for 9 yards, and their leading receiver was Jacoby Myers, who had 4 catches for 55 yards. The receiving core is a mess, and I'm not impressed with the skill position players on this offense. And I do think the Patriots will be a team that finishes this year with 8 wins at most, and this performance against Miami, I don't want to say confirmed it, because remember, it is still week 1, but a double-digit loss on the road when they play Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Green Bay in the following weeks is very, very concerning for the New England Patriots. In a game you lose by 5 points, where your starting quarterback throws 3 interceptions, and in a game where the winning team only puts up 24 points, it's incredibly frustrating to be a Raiders fan at this moment. The Raiders did a lot of things right in this game too, which only adds to the frustration. The obvious good news for them is it's only week 1, but this is going to have to be cleaned up if the Raiders are going to compete, the way their fan base expects them to by season's end, that is. Davante Adams did not miss a step, and I think most of us saw the video where he sent corner Asante Samuel Jr. out of the frame, but the Raiders' schedule the next few weeks is brutal, as it's the Cardinals, at the Titans, home against the Broncos, and at the Chiefs, and in those games, they cannot have Derek Carr turn the ball over like he has in a lot of games over the past 2 years. The Baltimore Ravens took care of business against the Jets, and a win is a win. The 49ers-Bears game was insanely frustrating if you're a 49ers fan, because, well, first off, the monsoon conditions, then losing on the road to a team a lot of people think are going to be picking in the top 5, then to George Kittle missing the game and everything else. I think they will be fine, but it is understandable to be frustrated in the Bay Area. And for Chicago, great win. Everyone in the city of Chicago knows how much they were doubted and counted out before this game and really this season, and granted it is only week 1, but get excited. The Colts are going to need some work, and Matt Ryan is not this dark horse MVP candidate some people seem to think he is. I like Matt, but the zip on his passes is nowhere near what it once was, and he has physically taken a step back, and it shows. There's a reason Jonathan Taylor got over 30 carries against the Houston Texans, and congratulations to the Giants on their week 1 win. And while I'm not the biggest Titans fan, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of any AFC South team at the moment either. Brian Daboll had guts to go for 2 at the end, and I commend him for that. For Carson Wentz and the Washington Commanders, they can honestly be described the way that Carson Wentz's career has been so far. A roller coaster. They were up early, and I thought the Commanders were going to beat up on a team that has had back-to-back number 1 overall picks, and let them know pretty quickly that the Commanders are not great, but they're not bad either. But the down part of the Wentz roller coaster quickly came, and Trayvon Walker had an interception within this game, and the Commanders had to make a comeback. Washington is an okay team, and Jacksonville is a rebuilding team. And guys, for week 1, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, now is the time I ask you to please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it would not only be very much appreciated, but help tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.